Joins us now, and I want to ask you about Coach Bednar. We heard some of his comments a little bit earlier about the game that were sort of general in their tone, but you had some thoughts on what he said about the goalie that stood out. What were they?
Yeah, Scott, I thought it was interesting. He was asked about Darcy Kemper, and he said, I thought he was okay, and I think he should have saved that first goal. I would have liked him to. And I just find it rare to see a coach at this stage criticize his goalie like that. Yes, it might seem a little passive, but that's criticism in hockey. And, you know, the thing with Jared is I think he does know how to push the buttons of his players, and maybe this is the way that Darcy Kemper responds best to coaching, kind of like after he pulled him in the Game 3. You know, and I've talked to Jared over this series. He does talk about these long conversations he has with players, so I'm sure he'll have another one with Darcy, but just the fact that he's pushing his buttons in this way publicly was interesting to me.
There was a whole lot of chatter about the number of players on the ice late in Game 4, and, you know, yeah, there might have been 6 for the Avs. I did see 7 at one point for Tampa Bay. That's neither here nor there. There was a penalty for too many men on the ice for the Avs late, which meant that they couldn't pull the goalie early because they're trying to kill a penalty. I don't know if that was the topic of conversation or just the officiating in general from the Avs perspective. Emily, what did they have to say?
Well, commenting on officiating is a very dangerous game for NHL coaches because they know they will get fined by the league. But Bednar did say, I did not like that call on Makar, that tripping penalty. And, you know, it's interesting because when you listen to him and his players, they were kind of snide remarks. They sounded almost passive-aggressive. It is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. But you could tell there was definitely some frustration in this, but the way the game was officiated, and they didn't necessarily think it was fair. That said, they didn't go full Cooper here, and they didn't pull the madmen. If you don't like what's being said, change the conversation. They took the onus of this loss on themselves.
Emily, we had John Cooper on a bit earlier, and he just marveled at his group. He said, you know, you see him in the locker room and you think, I don't know how they're going to get off the mat, and then they do it, and then they do it again. And, you know, they've lived to skate another day, yeah? And the resiliency, the competitive will of this Tampa Bay team has been on display throughout. How do you describe it, and sort of anecdotally, if there are any thoughts that you could share?
Unflappable, Scott. Like, I was walking at the rink this morning, I saw one of the Lightning players that I knew, and I asked him, are you nervous? And he said, no. And I just said, why? And he says, because have you seen our team? And I think there's just this belief in these guys that we've been there before. We've been in all of these situations, and it doesn't matter the deficit right now. No one even picked us to make it this far in our third year, going for this third Stanley Cup. And I think that unflappability and that confidence comes out so much that you saw it in this game. So do they look nervous? Absolutely not, because they have been there before.
Yeah, and they just keep figuring out ways to win. They haven't been backed up against it a lot in these 3 years. Only 4 times they've been in an elimination spot in this round, but they're 4-0 in the playoffs when they've faced elimination, and they're going to need to get 5-0 for another trip back to Denver. Emily, thank you so much as always for the time. Appreciate it.